So this weekend we're going to be doing some ingredient prep. So we're going to be preparing some jam and some salted caramel for my general bakes. The jam we're going to be making is Black Forest, which is one of my favorite jams to make. And obviously I really like using salted caramel in a lot of my baked goods. So whilst the stuff for the salted caramel warms up to room temperature, we'll prepare the berries for the Black Forest jam. So first things first, we're going to prep the berries for the jam. That's going to be really easy. For the berries, it's just mostly a rinse. I picked a lot of them fresh myself, so rinsing them to get rid of any bugs, and then weighing them out to make sure that we have enough. So just going to grab a bowl, and we're going to weigh out each one. So for my Black Forest jam, I generally vary what berries I do along with the cherries. I just want it to be kind of tart. But to start off with, well, this time round I'm going to be using blackberries, raspberries and blueberries. I actually went out and picked the blueberries and the raspberries today, and there are bramble bushes on my way home from work, so I picked the blackberries there too. So, starting off first of all with the blackberries. So I'm only going to use 500 grams of each berry and then a kilo of cherries. So start with the blackberries. Obviously, as I said, they're all going to get a wash, all going to get a clean, just to get off any germs and any bugs that may be sitting still in there. Also helps me to get off any leaves and any dirt. Throw that to blackberries. I'm going to rinse this. I'm just going to get off any stalks and stuff as well whilst I'm over the sink, just to make it easier. And the thing is, I left these blackberries unwashed and in the fridge, so obviously they've released some of their juice already, but that would be mixed in with some of the dirt. So unfortunately that's all getting poured away, but that's fine. As long as I have 500 grams at the end. Yep. So then this 500 grams goes into my general bowl. So first lot of berries in there. Next, I'm going to be measuring out the blueberries. Just clean up a little bit. I'll use the same bowl because, you know, they're all getting made in the same bowl anyway, eventually. So next is the blueberries. Whoop. Now these were really fun to pick. Obviously I take out the ones that are subpar, but yep. And try and get out any stalks whilst I'm doing it. But yeah, these are really fun to pick. There is actually a blueberry farm, if you live in the UK, there's a blueberry farm in Norfolk near Kings Lynn. That's where I drove. Drove a couple of hours to get there, and the lady who ran the thing was actually quite surprised that I drove all the way just to pick blueberries. And because of traffic, I arrived there like way later than I'd hoped to, and I only ended up having like half an hour to pick them, well 20 minutes really. But yeah, I still got a lot of blueberries, almost a kilo, from just like 20 minutes of rush picking. So just give these a rinse. The main reason why I only rinse when I'm about to use them is because berries tend to go bad very quickly once they've been rinsed. So if you rinse them literally as soon as you buy them, they will go bad in your fridge, or they will go bad wherever you leave them, especially on your counter. So berries, best thing to do, wash them when you're just about to eat them. I would still recommend washing them personally, but yeah, when you're just about to eat them, give them a rinse just to get any excess germs off. Or, you know, a lot of farms do use stuff like pesticides, so you obviously want to rinse that off as well. So these are my washed blueberries, and I will add them to the bowl. And last but not least, raspberries. Now, these raspberries were fun to pick. The main issue is that there were definitely loads of bugs when I was picking them. So I definitely have to do a lot of rinsing for this one, just to make sure that there are no bugs still left behind, and obviously pick off all the stems. And raspberries are well known for going bad very, very quickly, so definitely do not wash them unless you're just about to eat them or use them. The fun part of being able to pick them myself is to be able to have the exact, well, the amount I want, really. Although I think for the raspberries, I picked fewer than I wanted to. I think because there's like, because I only had like an extra 20 or so grams, I'll add them to it. And what I did when I was picking them, once I'd picked them and bought them, well, once I'd picked them and paid for them, I actually had a cooler in the car, a cooler bag with ice in it. So I set them on top of the ice. So it kind of worked like a fridge. So these are my raspberries. Give them a proper rinse to get off all the dirt. But yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you can, find somewhere where you can pick your own berries. Picking your own berries is a really fun activity. I know everyone's heard of strawberry picking. If you haven't been before, definitely go. But I personally prefer, I like strawberries, don't get me wrong. But I do believe that there are better berries out there to pick and to eat. Raspberries are my favourite. They are very delicious when fresh. And of course, when you wash all the dirt off, you get some very fresh berries. And that's the strawberries and the raspberries. Raspberries. So pour them into the bowl. All the bugs have been washed off. Let's have a look. See, obviously, when they're freshly picked, some of them might already start going bad on the plant. So if you can, just pick that off. But for the most part, these raspberries are pretty damn good. Yep. Basically do everything the stores do for you. So those are my raspberries. Oh, a little bit more come off there. These are my raspberries, blueberries, and blackberries, all ready for my jam. About 500 grams each. There are a bit more of the raspberries, but obviously I picked some bits off. So that's all my berries. So once the berries are ready, I'm going to set them aside, and I'm actually going to prepare the main part of the Black Forest jam, which is cherries. Now for the cherries, because they play such a big part in the jam, I'm going to use a whole kilo of them before this is before all the hulling and halving. So these are my cherries. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash them. I'm going to take off the stems and I'm going to de-seed them. And then I'm going to chop them. So just move this out of the way. And I get out the chopping board. And a knife. Nice knife. Just going to get off all the stems first and check the cherries. Now the cherries I didn't get a chance to pick. They're out of season now, out of picking season. So I just got some fresh cherries from a market stall instead, which are generally just as, well, not as good, but they taste better than supermarket. At least in my opinion. So get all these cherries Now what will happen is this will come up to less than a kilo of cherries in the actual jam, but I will still, I think, end up with about 2.5 kilos of fruit, which is my aim. 2.5 kilos of fruit to 2.5 kilos of sugar and the recommended amount of pectin. So I like using pectin because I know sometimes I struggle to set my jams. The struggling to set my jams is not necessarily because of the temperature, mostly because I have a tendency to add too much water at the start to cook the fruit down. So my aim this time is to set the fruit in sugar overnight, sugar and pectin. Let this do a bit of the breaking down and the drawing out of the juices, which is why I did all the washing, and I didn't mind washing away some of the juices that had been released already. So wash the fruits, put out some of the juices with sugar, and then this will be what I cook tomorrow. So I'm going to let it sit overnight. And the pros of it being the summer is that because it's still a little bit warm, it will actually draw out the juices pretty well because room temperature won't be like 5 degrees or something stupid like that. It will be closer to like 20, 25 degrees, maybe even warmer, depending on how it gets overnight. Right, and that is the fruit all destemmed. So now we're going to halve and hold them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the halved cherries straight into. I'm going to put them actually into another bowl. And once they're all done, then I will chop them. So just de-seed all of them. This is a long job. I like shopping at Costco, and Costco also do the 1 kilo punnets of cherries. There was also a cherry farm I went to last year, which didn't have cherry trees cherries to pick, unfortunately, this year. But when I went either last year or the year before, I didn't get to pick, but I got a kilo of cherries that I, again, had to sit down and halve and de-seed, and that can take like an hour when you've got a kilo of cherries. Luckily, because of that, I have become more efficient, but I can guarantee it's still going to take me a while. So, obviously, check if any are going bad. So, unfortunately, some of my cherries are going bad. It's fine, I can just chop off the bad bits. Now, my favourite part about actually making the jam is when it all comes together at the end. So, doing all the hard work now to make sure it will come together properly is ideal. And obviously, once I've got all the fruit to set, we can start on our next task for the weekend, which is the salt caramel. And that's all our cherries halved and de-seeded. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chop them and put them into the bowl and weigh them alongside all the other berries. just to get approximate weight, because I know I've got 500 of each berry. So if I add the cherries to that, we'll know how much sugar we need to add. Of course, there are some cherries that could only have like a small part of them salvaged. There are some cherries where only half the cherry could be salvaged, so it's kind of approximate. So definitely going to end up with less than a kilo worth of cherry. But because the cherry is so dark, and cherry flavour in general is quite strong, it should make up most of the flavour of the Black Forest anyway. Now, Black Forest kind of varies depending on where you get it. So some Black Forest jams that you can buy have grapes in them. Some of them have black currants and red currants in them. Essentially what you want is for there to be like a cherry flavour to be the main underlying flavour. And then you want some sour tart berry flavours on top, ideally. If it's just the cherry, it's still fine. Right, so this is the last lot of the cherries. So this has come up to about 850 grams of cherries. So we add that. So that's 850 grams of cherries plus 1,500 grams of other berries. That's 2.3 kilos ish of fruits for the jam. So just going to mix it, mixing it all up before I add the sugar, just so that it's not like layered. So the fruit consistency is very varied. And also helps to make sure the sugar coats as much of the fruit as possible. There we go. We want about 2.4 kilos of sugar. I'm just going to pour it on. It's a lot easier to do, just do that. So that's not 2.4, but I'm going to get a spoon and I'm going to push it about a bit. My usual jam spoon, which has obviously seen better days. Now that is 1.5 kilos of sugar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this to sit overnight. Let's see if I can get more of it onto the fruit. So this sugar is going to soften the fruit overnight. And obviously this is not a very clean method, so some of the sugar has fallen off. Or fallen out of the bowl. My aim is to make sure, well, that the fruit stays in. Right, so that was the first lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another bowl and I'm going to measure another 900 grams of sugar out. But this time I'm going to add the pectin to it. And this is all going to sit together. It's all going to sit together overnight. So So 0.9. So that's 900 grams of sugar. Then we add, now because we've got 2.4 grams of sugar and 2.4 kilograms of fruit, that would make about 4.8 kilos of sugar and fruit combined. Now, obviously 4.8 times 8, blah, blah, blah. So this will come up to about 38.4 grams of pectin. So we'll round that to about 39. Obviously, I did round up. So if I end up with just 38 grams, it's fine. Yeah, so that's fine. And then I'm going to mix it slowly because this pectin is a powder. And so will basically, because it's so fine, disappear into the air. So once the sugar and pectin are all mixed in together, then we add this to the fruit and sugar that I've already mixed before. So I'm just going to pour it on, and then once it's all poured on, then I'll mix it all through, just like I did with the 1.5 kilos of sugar before, just to make sure all of the fruit is coated with sugar and pectin as well. So once the sugar has all been mixed in, then I add in the lemon juice. Now the lemon juice helps to break down the outer layer of the fruits, and it also adds that little bit of tartness as well. So I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then I'm going to mix this all in as well, just to get a full consistency. And now that the sugar, the pectin, and the lemon juice are all mixed in, this bowl can now be covered and left overnight for everything to sort of melt down, for juices to be released, and then I will make the jam tomorrow.